Hi everyone, welcome to this week's video on approval addiction. So I had two different questions come through to me this week, and I thought that they kind of tied in with each other quite well. So I'm going to link them up for today's video. So the first one was someone who was saying, this lockdown is a strange time because we're having to redefine what defines us. And what now creates value in our life? How are we still finding value in our everyday life at the moment through lockdown? So that was the first question, looking at what defines us. And then the second question was around how do you deal with anxiety related to approval addiction? And the two are actually quite linked. So I wanted to chat about that today. So when we look at what defines us, in the past, so much of what has defined us has been what we do for a living, and our accomplishments and our success. But looking further into this, when I work with people and I ask them this question, what defines you? So much of it is tied up into external factors. So, a lot of what people feel defines them is where they come from, where they grew up, who their family is, where they went to school, what their level of education is. When people then leave school, people then further get defined by what they do for a living, how much money they earn, how successful they are in their careers. That then leads to the next level of definition, which is, where you live and what car you drive and the materialistic side of stuff. How big is your home and what kind of clothing do you wear? When you become parents, your definition of self then extends to your children. What are they like, and what school do they go to, and what are their marks like, and do they do sports, and what are their accomplishments? It's incredible to see how many parents really do live vicariously through their kids, and that like their kids' accomplishments is what defines them as parents. Some people put definition into themselves on how worldly they are, how much travel have they done, and how many cultures have they been exposed to, and how many languages do they speak. So it's maybe a good question to ask yourself that if you had to define yourself in terms of where you have value, what you value, and how you would explain or define yourself, think a little bit about that, because everything that I've just spoken about really is external stuff. And we've allowed ourselves to be defined by these external things, but lockdown's triggering this because those things are no longer accessible to us. And we're now having to look inward to create new definition for who we are and what brings value into our lives. Guys, all of our conditioning comes from the meaning that we give to the people and the events and the experiences of our lives. We're the ones that put meaning into people outside of ourselves, and then they, are the people that we seek approval from. So we are actually creating our own beast when it comes to approval addiction by giving other people in our lives the authority to determine whether we are valuable or not, or whether we are worth approving of or not. So, my mother, being the brilliant woman that she was, used to come up with pearls of statements, and one of her best ones was, all human beings are approval-seeking missiles. And I love that statement because I think it really does explain the whole human race. I think everybody wants approval. It's a complete normal need to want to get the acknowledgement and approval of people in your life. When it becomes an addiction, though, when seeking approval becomes a problem, is when you are simply incapable of having any self-esteem or any self-confidence without somebody else's approval of you. If you're constantly needing that from outside of yourself and you don't have it within you, then you have become an approval addict. So approval addicts are people that are constant people pleasers. Your actions are always about pleasing everybody else, meeting everybody else's needs, meeting everybody else's expectations, but not paying attention to your own. Approval addicts have a massive problem with putting boundaries in place. They simply cannot say no. Approval addicts are massive rescuers because they like the acknowledgement that comes when they step in to rescue somebody else from their problems and to fix their issues for them. Approval addicts are, everything that you do is done purely to get the acknowledgement of other people. So you've really got to ask yourself, what is the agenda behind what you do? Is it because it's genuinely what you want to be doing in the world, or are you simply doing it because you're hoping that somebody is going to approve and give you some acknowledgement for that? Now, social media has really amplified this whole approval seeking behavior that human beings get into. We've just got to look at the, two major ones, Instagram and Facebook. And why do people post? What is the purpose behind the posting? People want to get the likes and people want to get the follows. So with Instagram specifically, it is a huge platform. Guys, about 95 million photos and videos get uploaded to Instagram every single day, garnering about 4 billion likes. It just shows the obsession that the human race has now, gotten into with social media, and our validity is related to how many followers we have and how many likes we have. So I thought it was interesting last year when Instagram launched a trial version of its app where they removed the like count from below posts to see what would shift. Like if people were posting without worrying how many likes they were going to get out of it, would they still be using the platform? So that's something you can go and Google separately and look into that. But I thought, so much mental health problems are arising out of this like and follow situation with social media, and it is one of the reasons Instagram tried to launch this different version, because it's creating massive problems that you're creating this continual false version of yourself to get the approval of total strangers. So if you really struggle with approval addiction, a really big recommendation is to remove yourself from social media. If you cannot handle a life without daily approval from strangers, you have to wean yourself off of social media if you simply can't do it. So try and detox off of social media and bring your focus a lot more inward, instead of looking constantly outside of yourself for approval. Guys, here's the big thing with the absurdity of looking for approval outside of yourself. We all know that we all have our own versions of reality. The way we see reality is based on internal filters that determine how we perceive reality. Our version of reality is extremely unique to us. There are like 8 billion versions of reality on planet Earth, and none of them are the same. So, what one person thinks is valuable and worthy is not what another person is going to think is valuable and worthy. Even if you come from the same family, even if you're in a marriage, you and your partner may connect on a lot of levels, you're still going to see worth in different things, and you're still going to value different things. So this is the fundamental problem with looking for approval from other people, is that you're assuming they approve of the same stuff that you do. So, you've heard the phrase, she sees the world through rose-tinted glasses, meaning, somebody who's got rose-tinted glasses only sees the positive things in life. But it's a really good analogy to understand this version of reality that we live with, and why it's a waste of your time seeking approval from someone that doesn't see things the way that you do. Because, if for instance, let's say I'm a charitable worker and all of my success is going to be wrapped up in, what I give and what I do for others and the difference that I make in the world and all of my humanitarian work. And I, volunteer a huge amount of my time, and I do feeding schemes, and I go out and I make a difference in needy communities. And I deem success to be about that, about the difference that I'm making in the world. So I want you to think of literally me wearing the glasses of that filter. Like my success filter is determined by that. So if I am now wearing my glasses of success as a charitable worker, it doesn't matter what I'm looking at or who I'm looking at. I am judging them through the filters of my glasses of what I think success is. So if I see other people doing the same stuff and also being charitable workers and also being givers, I'm going to align with them, I'm going to give them my acknowledgement, and I'm going to approve of who they are and what they do in the world. However, if I'm looking at somebody who, let's say, is an investment banker, and they walk around wearing 20,000 Rand suits, and they drive a really expensive car, and they have a penthouse apartment, and their version of success is really monetary and all about money and about material possessions, I am totally not going to align with that. My filters, the way, my glasses are not letting me see success in that story. I'm seeing that with a lot of judgment, that they're not doing enough for their communities, that they could rather sell that suit and donate that 20,000 Rand to a charitable cause, that do they really need to be living in, that really expensive apartment. I stand in a lot of judgment of that person because my filters are telling me that that reality isn't okay. Therefore, that person is not getting my approval. if we look at that person and we use the same analogy of glasses, and we now look at him, and let's say that person's idea of success is having a great education and having your degrees and qualifications and getting a fantastic job and earning really good money, that he has sought to achieve that penthouse and the car and the 20,000 rand suit, and that is what he deems as success. His filters are only going to let him view success that way. So if he's not going to put on his little filter of success and look around the world, he's only going to resonate and see people who do the same stuff as being valuable. Other people that are successful in business and have nice apartments, you know, he's going to see that as being success. If he looks around and he looks at the other person, the charitable worker, he's not going to see success when he looks at that person. He's going to have judgment. You know, how is that sustainable? This person never has money. People and family always have to bail them out because they're giving all of their wealth away to everybody else. He's never going to approve of that reality. So we can see here through two different realities why the one is never going to give the other approval. Yet both of them are right in their view of reality, guys. Their view of reality is right for them. So do you now see the absurdity of one or the other trying to seek approval from the other? What this man thinks is worthy has no bearing on how this person chooses to live their life. So people say to me, yes, okay, that's great, Leah, but these two people are strangers. What about partners? What about parents? What about my husband? Their approval matters. Really? It's exactly the same story. If you are in a relationship, your husband or wife is going to have a different view of reality. My husband and I have got completely different views of reality. We value very different things. So as much as it would be nice if he does approve of stuff, my whole sense of self-worth and self-esteem is definitely not tied into what my husband or my parents or my friends think about what I'm doing. I'm going to go into the world and do that stuff anyway. So here's what the bottom line is when it comes to approval. Somebody else only has the power to determine your worth in the world because you gave it to them. You are the one that decided somebody else has the authority to determine how worthy you are in the world. And then if they don't give you their acknowledgement, you think you're not worthy. So just remove your power from people who you think have the right to determine where your self-worth lies. It's really got nothing to do with anybody else except you. So to shift approval addiction, the first is to really understand this whole filters thing I've just spoken about. The second thing is to really ask yourself, why are you looking for somebody else's approval? How long are you going to wait to get that approval? Why are you making somebody else's view of reality more real and more truthful than your own? And quite honestly, what's going to happen if that approval never comes? Will you die? No. Will you carry on living? Absolutely. So really question why it is you're needing that approval from somebody else. Approval seeking is also because you don't have a firm grasp on what it is you really want for your own life. What life do you want to be living? And if you don't have those answers, you need to be investigating that stuff. Because seeking somebody else's validation is just a lack of confidence in your own path. So look at your own path. What is it you want to be doing with your own life and seek to find those answers. Please do work around boundaries if you are an approval addict. Learn how to say no. Learn how to let people deal with their own issues in life. Learn to step away from that which is not meant for you. So boundaries are really, really important. And if it's really hard for you to still separate yourself from other people's views, maybe just consider this, that take other people's views as just an opinion rather than fact. The minute you make other people's opinions factual and truthful, that's when their approval matters to you. But if what somebody else has to say is just an interpretation or it's just a point of view, you can leave it at that and still carry on with what you want to do. So seek to redefine what is really important for you. Seek to walk your own path with no regard to what others think. And if it's really a problem for you relating to social media, get off of social media, have a bit of a fast from needing total strangers to approve of your life, and turn your focus completely inward to do your own growth and your own personal development work to get your own path strong enough that other people's opinions really don't matter. So think on that. Please keep the questions coming, and I will be back again next week, Wednesday, for another live video. See you then.